Welcome to Bullet Point. We are your host. I'm EP.
I'm JM.
Every week we're going to talk about competitive shooting and everything around it.
So, if you are a beginner, a pro, or a weekend warrior, this is your show.
Okay, you can easily connect with us through PHLV Radio Facebook page, Bullet Point Facebook page, or simply email us at bulletpointmediaproduction@gmail.com.
Now, don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel so you get the latest episodes of Bullet Point. Are you ready?
Stand by! All right,
Yes.
JM. Oh, no, you shot this weekend. Right?
Yeah.
I envied you.
We came back from Yuma charity match, so shout out to the
Every
Yuma
year,
group.
as I was mentioned, I really want to go there. I always forget.
It's always it's always a great time coming down there. It's a long drive, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Kudos to the staff that put that match together. It's a charity match that feels like a level 2.
Really?
Yeah.
So
it's well organized.
Yeah, kudos to everybody. Yeah, next year I'll be there. Okay, I like our topic tonight.
Yes.
So our shooting classes worth it?
Ooh.
It's everywhere, bro.
Yeah. Shooting classes.
Yeah.
You're from your favorite
shooter
instructor, IG instructor, or YouTube instructor. So, it's a great topic to discuss.
Right? Yeah, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Okay, if I told you that you could spend $1,000 this weekend, burn through 500 rounds of ammo, train with a top shooter for 2 days, and still not get any better?
Ouch.
Would you still sign up? because this is the truth, That's exactly what's happening to a lot of shooters right now. Not because classes are bad, but because most people don't understand what they're actually buying. I don't know if I'm right in that, but that's just how I look at it. Tell me about it, bro.
So when you mentioned not improving, right? Yeah. That means there's a couple factors in there. Probably because you signed up with a hype instructor, or the instructor is not really geared towards competitive shooting.
Another thing, yeah.
Or you just couldn't retain the materials that's gone
right?
over classes.
Yeah, well, I think I agree on that. But, usually it's you that I ask.
Yeah.
What does it look like 10 years ago? Or
right.
A few years ago.
Before, back in the day, if we were going to rewind this approach, if you wanted to get better in competitive shooting, especially in the USPSA, you have one path. You just show up, shoot matches, and then you learn the hard way.
That's right.
No shortcuts. And now today in this day and age, we have weekend classes. You got your one-on-one private coaching. You have online training. You got materials. You got your instructors uploading there, and you have to subscribe and
the Instagram,
still spend some money. And then you have your Instagram instructors everywhere, and it feels like we've entered a very pure and golden age of training.
Okay.
So there's a lot of avenues now compared to before.
Well, maybe, but here's the question though: if training is everywhere, why aren't we all getting better?
Yeah, that's a good
that
question.
we have access, right? The reality check is, this is something. This is the reason why. Before we go deeper, let me just show you what this actually looks like in real life, because you've seen this kind of shooters. I'll give you an example, okay? Yeah. So we call this the class hopper. Maybe this kind of shooter. A class hopper, guys, he's serious, or you may be serious, right? He invests, he travels. One month he's working on movement, and then next month he's working on changing his grip. Maybe, right? And then he focused on vision, because someone said that's the secret of, winning a competitive shooting. He's always learning, always adjusting, but match day comes, da-da-dan, nothing changes. It's the same result. Because for me, I think he's not building the skill. He's just getting all this, information.
Yeah.
And just by doing that, let's be honest, In that scenario, how many people we've seen this kind of, in the field?
Yeah, and there's a lot, right? And you and I, we shoot a lot.
Yeah.
Almost every week,
yeah.
right? And we hear a lot of classes left and right, even here locally.
Yeah, even locally.
Classes are being offered.
Yeah, go to my
regularly.
class.
Right.
Something like that. Right?
But we see the same students kind of fare out on practice score and how you end up with, right? Me personally, the way you measure your true skill is on major matches.
Yeah, that's true.
Not locals.
Locals usually we practice only.
Locals is
that's the time too.
Local matches for me are a way to execute and practice.
Yeah.
Anything you need to execute on, any skill that you want to improve on, and then outside matches, level 2, level 3. That's where you measure your skill.
Yeah, because this is where the what do you call it? Good shooters are going to come out, and you can have a better way of measuring yourself.
Right, and also, if I may add, not through classifiers as well.
Yes, yeah,
so
I agree.
It
could be a simple gauge, but that doesn't paint the whole picture.
Right. You don't want to be a paper chaser.
Oh, that's true.
And then you get beaten by a C-class sandbagger
You're right.
or like you.
I'm a sandbagger.
Ouch. You beat those M's.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I think you really have to be careful on what type of classes you wanna take.
I think I'm with you on that. Local matches going to be your practice matches.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is. But those major matches are going to let you
it's
see
an indicator.
where you're really at.
Area matches, nationals,
state
is a good one. State matches,
those are good ones.
So it'll fare out.
I agree definitely. But since we are talking about shooting classes, is it really worth it? I may say maybe this is the era or the time that we are in a coaching boom. There is a lot of for me, I could see a lot of competitive shooting coaches around us right now, and this is maybe a coaching explosion. And for me as well, the way I look at it, I've been in this industry for quite a while now. It just didn't happen by accident.
Right.
So I see the growth in the sport. What do you see?
Yeah. I think the when the sport grows, so are more shooters, more competition, more demand for improvement, right?
Definitely,
so the population grows. We've seen, I think, a month ago where USPSA itself pushed up some information regarding their membership.
Yes.
Where they grew, right?
Yeah.
So
the number really is telling us
the population grew, right? And then also social media changed everything.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
All of us have access to it. We see it here and there.
Yeah. So shooters just don't compete; they build audience. We've talked about this in our previous episodes. So which tends to lead to teaching.
That's right. Yeah.
A lot
we
more
have
opportunities.
Access.
Yeah, a lot more opportunities for. Also, in the mindset of instructors and also GMs teaching, it's another avenue of revenue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So nothing bad about that.
No, of course.
Right.
No.
We have to make money as best as we can.
Yeah.
Some, they focus on this 100%. So any avenues that they can create revenue, it's always good for them.
Yeah.
Right. And if you think about the business model for these instructors, right? If you're building your class or your academy, shooting academy, let's just say, for example, like 10 students, you multiply that by 500.
That's cheap. 500.
That's 5,000 a week.
Yeah, that's a good amount of money. Yeah.
And you do it twice a month. That's that's some serious
that's income. Serious
right?
income. Yeah.
So you have to think about it. if we talk about the shift, the coaching now, it's an industry.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it brings up, marketing, hype, and competition.
That's actually good. When you look at it, there's really nothing wrong about the coaching boom, guys. It's just what it is right now. It's business. But in this coaching thing, what are you really paying for? Of course, when you pay for a class, what are you actually buying?
Yeah.
So when you go to 7-Eleven, I want to buy a soda. You know what exactly you're
Right.
buying. You're buying a soda. But for
Yeah.
this one, what are you really buying? Maybe, of course, knowledge will be there, but knowledge, it's available everywhere. You just Google ChatGPT. You can get the knowledge everywhere. Okay, so again, what are you really paying for when you go to a class? Number two, maybe time comparison. Avoid of years of mistakes.
Yeah.
That's a good. Of course, that's a good buy.
Depending on when you say time compression, right?
Yeah.
Years avoiding those mistakes ahead of time.
Yeah.
Depending on where you at on your shooting timeline, right? Whether you're a beginner or you're in the middle of your timeline, you want to shorten it.
Yeah.
I think you and I we discussed this many times that our shooting timeline is like dog years.
Yes.
Right. 2 years in USPSA feels like 5 years.
Yes, that's right.
So you want to fast forward that, or you want to slow the
Depends on your
mistakes,
pacing,
right? So those are the things that you wanna think of.
Yeah, of course. But again, the real value. So maybe the real value there is the feedback that you get.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
But look, yes, you get the knowledge. Yes, we talk about time compression. We value all of this feedback. That's good. But the skill, really, that part is still on you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You're still the one that's driving the gun.
Yeah.
You're still the one that's executing the stage plans. You're
That's
still
right.
the one that's doing all the walkthroughs.
Just you, literally.
Right.
And there's this what you call maybe the illusion of progress. Because sometimes, I don't know, we lie to ourselves, or I don't know, or we just want to
It's a
feed our
placebo.
ego. It's a placebo effect, right?
Yeah.
So this is where the whole conversation about shooting classes becomes real, because if we're asking, are shooting classes worth it, or just or this is just a new cash grab? So that's ouch for coaches. But no pun intended there. But the truth is, we have to understand the idea behind it. So why do so many shooters take a class, and then they feel like they improved, and then end up right back to where they actually started?
Yeah.
And a lot of them are like that. I cannot name, of course, somebody, but maybe this is just the illusion progress. What do you think?
Yeah. So it's either you're regressing after the class,
That could happen,
right?
too. Yeah.
And we've seen those.
Yeah.
Or it may take a while for the progression to come.
Yes, because you're learning
based on the matches that you shoot, right?
Yeah. And of course, 1 or 2 days of classes just doesn't convert
It's
you
not.
that fast,
It's not a light switch.
Exactly,
It's a building block.
So that's the reason why. Is it do you feel better now,
Yeah.
or you're actually improving?
Right. So most shooters walk away from a class, right, thinking, you know what, that worked, or what they really mean is probably that felt good.
That's
right?
true. Yeah. So classes don't really sell results, guys. If that's how I look at it. They just sell the feeling of progress. I'm still gonna take it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get your confidence just by feeling good.
I'm very selective on the instructors. I wanted to make sure that the instructors that we choose, if ever we're granted a class, is in the same division as what we shoot.
Yeah.
Right. I think it'd be best to approach it where if you're an open shooter, you get somebody that is
Who does
a grandmaster in open and winning.
Yeah.
There's a difference. There's a grandmaster for me. There's either you're a grandmaster, but I also like that you're winning.
That's true. That's
So
true.
so you could be a grandmaster, but you don't. You're not
right.
ending
Because
the
there's
way,
somebody better than you.
There's somebody
But,
better than you.
It's really there's a lot of moving elements in shooting. You can be a grandmaster, and he can be a grandmaster, but it just so happened that he moves faster because you are 70 years old and this one is 25 years old. So, definitely, there's going to be a huge difference there. But the basics, maybe, or putting in the experience, somebody might be able to get a little something than a regular shooter, right? But why does this happen, guys? Because in a class environment, I know people there because they paid for it, and then of course, the teacher, the coach would want to give the value of what they paid for. Definitely, when you're in a class, you're focused. And then when you do stuff, you're being corrected as well.
Yeah, someone's correcting you,
and you like that feeling because you paid for it, versus doing it with your team, and then you might not want to be corrected. And then of course you're paying attention, a lot of attention, and just instead of just somebody in the stage saying what should have done. Okay, and then of course in the stage, whenever you do local matches, you don't repeat the stage.
Right.
It's done. Or of course you want to perform better. So, but that performance still depends on the environment, not just through that skill yet.
I'm going to agree with you on that one, because when you have somebody, right, somebody's watching you, somebody's, hey, this grandmaster is watching me, I'm going to do my best.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. But a lot of the students, what they don't understand is the sustainability part.
Oh, that's
right?
Another story.
So you remove that instructor, remove that grandmaster that's watching you. Can you repeat this every single time that you step foot in that range?
That's correct.
So again, a big part of that would be an awareness.
Yes.
Awareness is not a skill.
Definitely, yeah.
So classes are great. It is giving you awareness, and you have to think of it. What you're doing wrong. You have to be aware of that. And what you should fix.
Correct.
But knowing isn't enough in that realm, right? And some folks needed to be told what's wrong. So it's definitely a two-sided approach on you picking the right instructor, or just doing it on your own.
Well, that's true too. And speaking about awareness that you were saying a while ago, maybe awareness, it makes you feel like you've improved. That's okay, because you're aware of it. But repetition is actually what makes you improve. Yeah. And that's exactly what you're saying. Can you do it every time you start to run a stage? That's what it is. So the real problem after the class, no structure, no feedback, no repetition. Just like when you run a stage, that's it. You go to the next stage. So what happens? You fall back to your old habits because that's what you're used to. Because when you go to a coaching class, maybe 2-3 days, or might not be very, very seldom.
It fades away.
It fades away because, again, you were saying, to your point, you have to repeat it every now and then. Maybe coaches should have a follow-up class.
Well, there are instructors that does follow-up.
Oh, that's a good one. Right? Yeah, that's very effective.
Or I've seen instructors where, before you start their class, they'll send you'll send them your shooting video. They'll analyze that. That's good. And then when you get to the class, that's when they start correcting some stuff.
Okay.
And then after that, they'll do a quote unquote like a follow-up. Now, it now depends if that tuition fee that you just paid covers the whole entire thing, or you still got to pay, to talk to them, in the future.
That falls to our question.
Yeah.
Why does it start to feel like a cash grab?
Yeah.
So
you pay for a class, you feel improvement, and then you lose
it again. Right? Yeah. So maybe you'd think that maybe I need another class. That's what we're talking about, the follow up, right?
And then it repeats again. It cycles back again.
I like the business. Not because classes don't work, guys, but because the process was never maybe completed. Because one day or 2 days, you don't expect that it's going to change you right away next class. Next competition. Well, the hard truth, guys, is most shooters don't need another class. That's what it is. They need to do the last class they took over and over
Right.
again, and that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
The repetition. Can you do it again?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
No, and again, just a cautionary, approach here that shooting classes are not a scam.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right.
No,
So
definitely.
we want to make sure that that's clear, but but they can feel like one.
Okay.
Right. If you expect them to replace the work, the value of the class is not what happens during
Correct.
the class,
yeah.
right? It's what happens after that.
What you bring with you, right? After the
Your
class.
takeaways.
Yeah,
Your
right.
takeaways are super important. So if the issue isn't the lack of information, then why do shooters keep chasing more of it?
Oh well,
right?
that's the question, really. Right?
I think with that being said, I think it's more of also a fan based approach.
Yeah.
Right, you want to hang out with your top shooter, and
that's enough for me, right?
So that's another thing too.
I attended James' class.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it didn't change. I was with him over the weekend. I know that guy.
Yeah.
Look, we have got a picture together, right?
Right.
Let's have another scenario, and let's have a weekend wonder scenario. Oh, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
What do you think of this?
I think the weekend wonder scenario would be the shooter takes one class,
Okay.
And immediately he's crushing it. He's on fire.
Wow.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. It
and
happens.
everything feels perfect. So he's thinking like, this is it. I've leveled up. Then 2 weeks later, it's gone.
You know how it's
Right.
gone? Oh, it's my gun.
Because in that scenario, it wasn't mastery. It was temporary awareness.
Okay. Well, why does this happen? What do you think?
I think you didn't build skills.
Yeah.
You just borrowed focus.
Wow.
So when that happens, you're still high on your last class, right? And you're pumped up. You feel like this is gonna work. This is gonna solve everything that's wrong with my
me,
shooting, right? So you'll do well, a couple of weeks, and then
You lose it.
you're gonna lose it. And you're gonna fall right back.
Yeah, and this is exactly what's going to happen in our next scenario. We call them the seminar loop.
Yeah,
Because you don't feel that it's working. What does you do?
yeah. You take
Take
another
another
class.
class.
You find another instructor.
another
like,
one.
all right, well, I'm gonna join this class.
Because now you look for another one.
Yeah.
You what you're chasing there is the feeling now. You just keep on chasing the feeling. But the issue there, you never build the foundation.
No.
So I think that's just why it is. So if those are the cases, JM, why do shooters keep signing up for classes?
It's not just about getting better. It's more on the psychological
I
side.
agree. Maybe it's more psychological, right?
And we keep saying that the placebo effect, and I hope that we're wrong, right? I hope when somebody takes a class, they really they really take it to heart and they really do well and sustain it and win matches. And
That's right. Of course, that's the goal.
Get some awards, but. There's also the shortcut mentality.
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
So most people don't want to struggle for years. They want
Time
to cut
compression,
that.
right?
Right. They want a faster progress, clear answers, direct answers, and a system that works that they could follow. And the class promises that exactly.
It's a shortcut. Yeah, that's true. So there's just what you call an authority bias as well. And these are, when someone is a top shooter, just like what you're saying, hey, I'm with my idol, and he's very well known and he's very highly visible. When you talk about highly visible, social media is in all the major events, and definitely, we automatically think if I learn from these people, I become like them.
Yeah.
But being great at shooting doesn't always mean being great at teaching.
Yeah.
Just like in my business, and whenever I talk to my clients on business consultancy, it doesn't mean that you know how to cook. You know how to cook. You can put up a restaurant.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you know how to shoot. you can automatically teach.
Yeah.
You know, so that's, I think, the authority bias, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, if that makes you feel good, then go ahead.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You know, and we talked about, you know, being motivated, right?
Right.
And after the class, right? And you're still in that motivation high.
Yeah.
So when you buy a class, when you purchase a class, you're investing in yourself.
Correct.
And then even before you even improve, you already feel motivated, you're focused, you're looking forward to that class, you're committed, and that feeling alone can be addictive.
And then you do it again. So,
and you do it again.
That's true. That's true. Actually, motivation high, right? And another thing maybe is fear of missing out. If you hear your friends, oh, he went to this kind of class, and now you want to do that same class too.
Right.
So you see others.
You get FOMO.
You get FOMO there, right? So you see others training, and then they post their drills, social media, right? So taking, talking about the classes that they went to, and you start thinking, if I don't do this, I'm falling behind.
It's especially if you or your group are started the journey all together at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So everybody starts getting competitive, which is good, right? You just got to use it. You just got to harness it in a different way, and then you always wanted to have that quote unquote like that secret weapon,
secret
sauce that you've done over the weekend. You can post it. You maybe or maybe keep it a secret.
That's right. So sometimes now people don't buy classes anymore because they don't buy classes anymore just because they need them. They buy these classes because they don't want to be left behind again. That's what you were saying. FOMO, right? And then you mentioned about Instagram a while ago.
So Instagram effect, right? What's really changing the game right now is social media. Social media is a very, very powerful tool. We all know that, and because of that, shooters aren't just learning in the range. They're learning from the feed, and the instructors and the teachers. They're also putting some contents in there. I've also seen, teachers and instructors that would do a quick 20-second feed, but it's not complete because they want you to go subscribe or purchase a lesson.
That's right.
So there's some issues and there's some negative issues around that or some problems. You when you're scrolling, you see them. You see it perfect runs and clean transitions, perfect stage executions. So everything looks smooth and everything looks effortless and flawless. And without realizing it, you're starting to kind of copy that.
It,
So
that's good sometimes, right? But sometimes it goes wrong.
Copying that again, you're not in an actual. When you're sitting in your couch or you're laying in bed, you're not in an actual setting.
Exactly.
It's not the foundation, right? So what
you may see the results.
You may see the result, but you don't see the thousands of reps that person is. There's a reason why he's an instructor, right? And the years of training and the fundamentals behind that performance.
Exactly, because just like when we watch Michael Jordan, he's just flying the air. We think that it's so easy, but we didn't see how many misses, how many times he woke up 3 a.m. in the morning, how many times he did these things to be him, something like that. And it's the same. You know? So, and then what's going to be the impact, just copying them?
The impact, I think, switching techniques too fast.
You're trying it now, and then you try another one.
And then you try another one, right? Overthinking your execution.
That's right.
And then chasing what looks good versus what works.
For Instagram purposes. But nothing hit.
No hits. It's for the gram. So social media shows you what's possible, but it doesn't show you what it takes to get there.
Oh, that's true. I like that. Thank you. In fact, that's an eye opener to everybody as well. So you can actually measure if it's really really worth it to get a class. But actually, at the end of the day, it depends on you as an individual. So I'll give you another scenario. See, guys, if somebody who is like the overthinker, you know, because an overthinker shooter, this shooter steps up at the stage and you can see it. He's thinking about everything, grip, sights, movement. And because of that, you know, because he's overthinking, guess what? He freezes. And we saw that many times. It happened to me too.
Yeah.
Because there's too much information running on your mind before you start executing. That kills the execution.
I call that analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis, you know? So you overthink and you're paralyzed. So most shooters don't lack information. I think they lack, in this case, execution. Yeah. Right. So that's the overthinking one.
Yeah. I think too, when top shooters, what they actually do, you know, they analyze everything and they cut through all the noise. You know, everyone else, when they look at it, right, they're chasing new techniques. They're taking multiple classes. They're switching systems, and top shooters are doing something very, very different. Yeah. Right. They master the basics.
Very important. Definitely.
You know, they get down to the the exact science of it. They don't keep changing the way they shoot. What they're doing is they're adding that specific skill set to their library. Yeah. So they don't replace something; they just add. You know, they're always locked into fundamentals, and then they refine it over time. You know, time and time again, they keep doing it. Remember, you know, the saying is, you know, you have to train until you get it wrong, right? Yeah,
that's true.
You don't train to get it right until you get it wrong, right? You know, your grip, your vision, transitions, movement, nothing's flashy. Just a deep acumen for your training.
You know, even as simple as the fire. What do you call this? You do in the morning.
Dry fire.
Dry fire. You do dry fire with intent. Yeah. Not just because one did it. Yeah. One is doing it because they have a purpose of doing that. That skill might not be in him. That's why he's doing it. So when you do your dry fire, you have to see what you're lacking, and that's what you do every day until you get it and practice in the range. You know, so I think what the, top shooters actually do too is that intention. They train with intention. Yeah. They just don't go out there and practice. They show up with one goal: to fix something. You know, sometimes when you go to local matches, you just fire away and hope that you'll be a top 10. You know, so, but last week you were top 10, and then this week you're still top 10 doing the same mistake. Yeah. So you would want to go there with intent to fix something that you missed last week, and now that's actually what you call progression. And then they stay on these top shooters until they improve.
You have to be able to self-diagnose
That's
yourself.
True. Yeah, that's
you
right.
You have to be able to do a temperature check on see, and you have to be honest about it. Yeah. Right? And because, again, you know, if you're not, you're only kidding yourself if you're not, you know, direct and you want to improve. You know, after every run, you know, and you can do this locally, right? And this is a great platform to do it. You know, what went wrong, why it happened, and what to adjust. Don't guess. They don't get, you know, don't just guess. You make sure that you understand.
You understand, correct? Yeah.
You understand why.
That's true. Know? And of course, you I learned something from you there a while ago about repetition. And the value of repetition. It has to be what do you call this? You looked at that repetition over novelty. Sometimes we shoot for novelty, right? So, well, again, if that's your purpose, you know, who are we to even question it? Right. But again, if you would want to be thinking like what top shooters really do, they value repetition over novelty. You know, they're not looking for new information. You know, they're building consistency, and it becomes second nature to them. Same drill, same focus, over and over and over again. So top shooters don't really rely on constant instruction. They rely on disciplined execution of what already works. You know, I think that, you know, I'll take it from, you know, I'll take it anytime. Yeah. Just disciplined execution.
Yeah. You know, there's also, you know, on the flip side, right? You have somebody that takes classes or you know, takes a class or takes many classes, but also you have this self-trained grinder.
Oh
person,
yeah, and we've seen a lot of them.
And you know? and I think you know, we've hung out to a lot of those that are very successful.
Yeah.
They haven't taken any classes, and it's just pure discipline.
That's right.
Same drills every day, over and over.
Yeah.
And slowly, you see that person become a lot more, successful and dangerous, as far as in a good way.
In a good way.
You see the results kind of progress and go up.
Yeah.
So we have those. But also we have the natural talent.
Oh, we forgot about that. That's right.
The natural talent approach or person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this person, we rarely see this person on the range, maybe once or twice a month, and barely trains, and still ends up, in the top 5, results. But the truth is, talent gets you notice,
of course,
but discipline gets you there.
Oh yeah, those are two different things. I like how you place that. And again, those are just scenarios, guys, that you see on the range. But again, when are classes really worth it? So after everything that we've said tonight, let's just be clear, guys. Right? So shooting classes do have value, period. Right? But only under the right condition. Period again, right?
Yeah.
So when they actually work, classes are actually worth it. When you've hit plateau, you would see that. I felt that at one point in my shooting.
Yeah,
I'm not improving. I plateaued.
Everybody plateaus.
Yeah, and then I met you, and Miko told me, "Okay, go open."
And never look back.
He never looked back. Oh my God! Right. So you don't know what to fix.
Yeah.
At least we as friends. That's what's so good about us.
Right.
We talk about our capacity to shoot, what needs to be done. That's good about our group. But you need a trained eye to diagnose your problem. Oh, Miko, is he
a third eye, third point of view.
Yeah. Right. But and very honest.
Yeah.
Whatever they see, you need that.
Brutally honest.
Brutally honest.
You have
that's
to
true.
be.
Yeah.
You have to be.
And then and also tested.
Yeah.
You're being tested on the range too. So that's where a coach becomes powerful.
Right.
I think.
Right.
So because one correct insight is very valuable, and then that insight can save you months or even years of trial and error.
Yeah. Now. On the other spectrum, let me tell you why they're not worth it.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
The classes are not worth it when you're still learning the basic fundamentals. Maybe this is good if you're a beginner.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you don't want to stay a beginner for a very long time, right? And you don't practice. Do you have some key things that you have to work on every day to be successful in this sport, and you don't do anything, right? And you also expect instant results.
Oh yeah, we talked about it.
Which is very unrealistic.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, very unrealistic. So it turns into wasted money.
Of course,
right?
You didn't develop,
I mean, again, this is your money, folks, and you're free to spend whatever. How are you gonna be spending it?
That's right.
We're not in that. We don't tell you what to do with your own money. So a real role of a class. A class is there not to make you a better shooter overnight.
We know that already. That's good.
And it's there to give you direction.
Correct.
And then also and this is what I've seen that I wanted to make a tip. Choose the right instructor.
That's true. Yeah.
That's very, very important. Not just hey, this person is doing a class, let's jump. You have to look at the profile of the instructor.
Yeah.
What division do they shoot? What discipline did they shoot? They shoot IDPA, steel, or do they do USPSA or all of the above?
Yeah.
Right. And then look at their performance. Are they relevant today?
Oh,
are
that's
they
heavy.
winning today?
That's heavy.
Or were they a previous shooter back in 90s or 2000 that they were also winning? So remember, this sport evolves, right? And when when you pick a good, when you pick a class, a good class won't make you a better shooter over the weekend, but it can show you exactly how to become one, if you're willing to do the work after.
Actually, that's true. When you pay for a class, guys, you want to make sure that you do the work after.
Yeah. And I also want to make sure that I'm again, using my resources and my funds. I want to make sure there's value to that,
definitely,
right?
Mm-hmm. That's true. So here's the brutal truth. Okay, so let's be honest for just a second. All right, so because this is the part most shooters don't want to hear. We spend backwards. So a lot of shooters will spend through thousands on gears, upgrade every part of their setup, but hesitate when it comes to training or even just consistent practice. Or maybe, is that it?
Or worse, they take a class, or feel motivated and they don't follow through. There's no repetition. Again, there's no repetition, no structure, no consistency. You have to understand how to use that class properly.
That's right.
Again, when you get into that mindset where, so if you're going to take the class, you do it the right way, because the value of the class isn't automatic.
Correct.
You have to think that.
Yeah.
You can't be like Saturday, Sunday, you taking a class and then Monday this would all solve everything, right? It's created by how you use it.
Correct.
So,
just go to class with one goal only. Not I want to get better. That's actually too vague, guys. When you go to a class, when you go to a class, go in with I want to fix this. You have to understand you already, and you have to understand what you need to fix on you or about you. One problem and then one focus, because this is you'll be able, by doing this, you'll be able to maximize that class or what you actually spent for, because you capture what you actually learn. Right.
Yeah,
and then speaking about capture about what you learn, take notes, because you will definitely forget. Don't say that, I'll remember. I tell you, you will forget. So especially for me, how I always look at it, the first 24 hours, you retain 80%. The next 24 hours, you retain 20%. And the third 24 hours, guys, you have nothing. That's why you have to keep on taking notes. Small details, key corrections, what actually worked and what you don't write down, okay, you don't retain.
Yeah. No, those are good points. Yeah. So in on the flip side, if we have this successful in a smart student scenario,
okay.
The most better way to approach this is take one class.
Okay.
Right? Don't hop on and jump, and take multiple classes at the same time. That's information overload for everybody. So just take one class, go and practice and disappear for a while and train it and apply it to local matches and then come back different. Again, it's a building blocks. You want it as building blocks, and that's how you use, your coach or your coaching.
Exactly. Well, I actually like that, Take one class, disappear and train.
Yeah.
And then you come back differently.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you see me now, I disappear, I train, and then you look at me the next day, the next time, I'm already sexy. Okay. All right. Okay. So let me ask you this now. So when you look at all of these shooters, the class hopper, the grinder, smart student, the gear investor, which one are you? Well, maybe we can throw that question to them.
Yeah. So you just hopefully, again, in a world where everyone is teaching, the real question is who is actually training.
Oh well, you mentioned that.
You can be all those profiles that you just mentioned.
Yeah, who actually is, right?
But are you the one that's constantly training and being a better shooter?
That's true. Well, there you go, guys. Well, we hope you got some great insights today about our shooting classes worth it, right?
Yeah.
So once again, this is Bullet Point. My name is EP.
I'm JM.
And of course, we'll see you on the range.